Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Covington Board of Education to order. Ms. Egan, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Egan?
Here.
Mr. Gastreich?
Here.
Mr. Simpson?
Here.
Ms. Williams? Here. Mr. Hyde?
Present. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you to everyone who's here in person, everyone watching online. Those here in person could take a moment to silence your cell phones and any smart devices you may have so we're not interrupted this evening. That would be greatly appreciated. Before we get into district recognition, since our first meeting in June, I did want to wish everyone a happy Pride. Certainly proud to live in a community that values inclusivity, and certainly proud to work in a school district that makes sure every single kid feels like they belong every single day. So with that, let's get into some very exciting district recognition and presentations. First up, we have a diploma recipient tonight, Mr. Joel Hayden Lopez. And Miss Judy's going to help us present that.
Is Joel with us tonight?
I think he is. He's right there.
Come on up,
Yeah.
Joel. Stand over here for me. You look very nice. That's for you, okay? And I just want to say a couple of things about Joel. I love that we do this in Covington because we create different ways for kids to achieve success. And I think success looks different for all of us. And I love that we do that here. Joel has worked really, really hard at the Transformational Learning Center to make sure that he has accomplished and earned all of his credits so he can receive his Covington diploma this evening. I also wanted to let everyone know that since Joel has been with us, he has worked so hard that he scored high enough on his access testing that he has actually exited the EL program before graduating with us. And I think that that is something that's phenomenal. So Joel, congratulations. Way to continue to work hard and persevere to earn that diploma, sir.
Congrats, Joel.
Joe, I owe you an apology. I should have dressed like you tonight. We're honoring you. I just got back from a training, so my apologies.
Can we get a picture with Joel? Can we get a picture up here?
Hey, count of three, say graduate. 1, 2, 3.
Graduate. Congratulations.
No, he don't have to stay.
And Joel, you earned your diploma. You do not have to stay here for our boring school board meeting. So you and your family are free to go celebrate right now. So thank you. All right, let's jump into informational items. Mr. Parsons is here with his client to discuss a pilot agreement.
Mr. Chair and members of the Board of Education, I'm Jim Parsons with the law firm Keating, Youth and Cleecamp, and of course I've been here many times for other projects, but we're here tonight to give you just a presentation regarding the project being undertaken by the Silverman Group Company in blocks M and M in the central Covington riverfront area there. At this point, I think it's loaded, so I'll stand by for questions, but then Tim Burgoyne with Silverman is here to do the presentation. There's some other representations also.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, my name is Tim Burgoyne. I'm Director of Site Acquisition Development for Silverman Company. And also tonight with us is Ryan Silverman, Vice President of Silverman Company, and Jake Reaver is our Manager of Development. So any of us can answer questions when we get done here. So moving right along. We're here tonight to discuss the request for an IRB, Industrial Revenue Bond, for development located in the CCR, the Covington Central Riverfront area, sometimes referred to as the old IRS site. We want to forget about that, but it helps with defining where it is. The development will take place on blocks M and N, and it will include approximately 275 residential units, about 7,700 square feet of restaurant and retail space. And the capital investments totals about $70 million. There's also a parking structure. It's not listed on here. It's part of it. And it will be, at present, it's the largest private development in the CCR. So we're excited to be here, excited to be a part of it. I'm happy to be here this evening to talk with you.
There are a number of smaller residential developments, and then there's a very likelihood that there will be a large public investment with the potential of Chase Law School and Pedals. This is probably going to be the very largest of the private developments in America.
Just to give you a little background on is this thing working? Oh, it doesn't work on the screen. Battery is dead or something. I don't know, we'll get by. No, there's one on the clicker.
Is it? I'm sorry, I turned it off. Is it right here?
Probably won't know. No, it doesn't work. It works on this screen, but not that.
That's fine. You can just point it that way. That's fine.
Okay, just a little orientation. This is existing 4th Street. This is proposed Washington Avenue extension of Washington. This is proposed extension of 3rd Street. And this is Eva G. Ferris Drive. It runs about here and will be extended and connected. So this development includes that whole block. One of the things that we wanted to do here, I'll show you a little more detail in a moment, is that we were asked not to make a mega block development, even though this has one use. It's actually devised in a way and architecturally designed to appear to be 3 different uses or 3 different developments. On 3rd Street, on the 1st floor here, will be our retail. Our plan is to have chef-driven local concepts in here, restaurants mostly, about 7,700 square feet. These on the 1st floor here will be more like brownstone units with direct access from the sidewalk, also have a rear hallway. This will be the parking garage. It's 2 levels. This is, Covington has a lot of alleys. They requested that in this development, we work an alley into it. So this will be an alley, and this will also provide access to the garage. The garage will keep hidden as best as possible. And then on the 1st floor, also this area in yellow is the management office, the lounge recreation area. I'll go over the details of that. And these are 3 more of the brownstone type units with direct access to the public street. So that's kind of the general look of where the building is and what it will be like. And then the next one is, I'll get the floor plans. The building's 5 stories. The floor plans, we have a lot of studio apartments, 31% will be studio, 550, 585 square feet. We'll have 1 bedroom, 1 bath, will be about 47%. They'll run in range from 730 to 900 square feet. We'll have 1 bedroom with, again, a small number that is about 940 square feet. And then the 2 bedroom, 2 bath, approximately 1,120 to 1,400 square feet. That'll be about 20% of the unit. So that's kind of the mix of the residential portion of this development. It'll also include our projects, our developments, communities all have very high standards. We'll have an on-site management office. We have a large residential lounge. I showed you that. It's the yellow area. Fitness center lounge. We have a co-working hub space, an area where people can get together, and lots of plugins for computers, kind of a quiet area where you can work. And then we'll have rooftop amenities, will include a pool, a wine and beer garden, outside area with grilling stations and so forth. So it's an urban environment, but it'll be a welcoming place for people to live. Here's a couple of views of the building. Along this side here is 4th Street. This would be Washington here. As you can start to see, there's a style of building here, there's a style of building here, and down on 3rd Street is another style of building. Even though it has one use, it's a mixed-use building, but one owner, it'll appear to be multiple buildings. Here's another view. This is along Washington Street, and this would be 3rd Street down here, and that would be 4th Street up there. It's just another view of the building. This is a view along the proposed Third Street. The retail would be here. Wide sidewalks, opportunity to have outdoor seating for people to sit outside and eat, and just a welcoming environment in general. This is kind of an aerial view. This, once again, is 4th Street, Washington Avenue, 3rd Street. And this is just flipped around the other way with 3rd Street here, Washington Avenue here. Building in the middle is a T-shaped building. And you see this little roof here, that's garage area and outdoor amenity spaces will go there. A little bit about us. Silverman and Company was founded in 1984. We're in Blue Ash, Ohio. We're a local developer. We have a sister company, Howell Homes, that was founded in 1977, excuse me. And we specialize in development, construction, lease and management of multifamily, retail, office, and mixed use. Everything we own in the area, everything we own is in the greater Cincinnati area. It's all buildings we built, constructed, and then we keep and maintain on average long term. And we manage in-house, so we manage everything we own ourselves. A couple of examples of other things that are going on. We're finishing this project up. This is in Deerfield Township. It's one exit north of 275 on 71. It's the easiest way, basically Montgomery Road. It's been up there. But this will be, it's called the District of Deerfield. It's 70,000 square feet, approximately, of retail and 120 apartments. Up in this area, here's a rooftop swimming pool, an open area similar to what we're going to be constructing in the CCR. The middle is a public park. We worked with the community of Deerfield to develop this. They put funds towards it. We developed it as a public park. There'll be a gathering space. It has a Dora. You can bring beer and wine. They can activate the space and have concerts, car shows, whatever they want. We can shut down. These are public streets that can be shut down. We have restaurants, and it's an entertainment district. This is 50 West right here. They've already opened or operating. It's another picture of it. It's what the District of Deerfield. Those are the apartments you can see up there. Here's another picture. It's the park. This isn't quite done here, but this is the public park. And you can still see there's some things that need to be finished here, but it just opened, so it is done now. And this is one other development we did. This is also Deerfield Township. This is what we call a horizontal mixed-use development. It's these are retail outlets out front. This is all low profile. These buildings here are 2-story direct access apartments. These are all ranch apartments that are ranch with 2-car attached garages. And then along the back here is something that's new in Cincinnati. These are all single-family homes for rent in the community. They have the same access to the amenity area and the clubhouse. It's full service. It's like any other apartment. We change the light bulb for you if you want, but you're actually living in a single-family home if you want. So that's a more suburban view. What we're looking here is more urban, in downtown Covington, but we try to design communities that fit the environments that they're in. This is that shows some of the 2-story. This is what's called Craftsman, or farmhouse design, and that's there at the Pimlico Point. A couple other pictures. This is a picture of the we just opened the new clubhouse lobby for Pimlico Point. This is more of the style. This is a 4-story elevator building. Buildings called One Deerfield. It sits across the street from the District of Deerfield. It's 245 units, and all of our buildings on the inside kind of live the same, but we put different skins and different to fit into the communities they're in and most things. So they all have 9-foot ceilings and quartz countertops and washers and dryers included and all that sort of stuff. This is just a picture of the lobby of One Deerfield. It's more like a concierge sort of service. This is another picture just of the clubhouse area for One Deerfield. So that's one of the apartments. This is the type of feel that we want to CCR. And this is one other. It's another building we own and developed. It's called Grandstone. It's 3-story elevator, interior hallway, Same sort of amenity package, but once again, a little different style of architecture that fits in with the community around it. And this is just to show we do other stuff. This is the Kroger Market Center we developed in Westchester. So, our request this evening is we need the incentives from the pilot and the IRP, because as everyone knows, when COVID hit, costs went through the ceiling, inflation hit very hard. Inflation's leveled off, but we haven't hit the disinflation. It hasn't gone down in prices, still prices are up, interest rates are up, equity requirements are up. The cost of building garages is very expensive, and it's very hard in the greater metro area to find a parking garage that does not have some sort of incentive or IRB or something to help the truth is, the cost of a garage is, every time we build an apartment, we create value. Every time we build a parking space in the garage, we lose value. They cost more to build than what they're worth. So that's why we're here with subsidies. What we're requesting is a 60% pilot payment to the city, county, and school district for a 20-year bond term. And as you know, the site for the last 65 years has not generated any taxes. And also, this will be all new tax dollars for the community.
One thing I'd point out, going back, let's go back to the 60%. I think
I turned it off. But
well, you went back, but anyway, just an update relative to that. I think that the developer really tried to work on the numbers here without any incentives. But actually, when they started running the numbers, it just did not work. The city of Covington has, through their economic development department, has underwritten the incentive here and has recommended that the 60% pilot. I will point out that the 60% pilot is probably it's the highest pilot that the city of Covington's ever gotten in schools, has gotten on an IRB deal. So, and if you really factor in your SEEK impact, you're actually probably almost net 100%, because for members of the Board of Education, if this was on the tax rolls, you would get more local revenue, but you would lose some amount of state subsidy. But when you look at the 60% plus a SEEK benefit, you're pretty much right at 100% relative to that. You will pick up the tangible taxes on cars that the residents own and things like that. In addition to that, the city underwrote this at a 20-year bond term. So actually that's on the shorter end of almost all the other IRBs you've approved have been a 30-year and some even 40-year bond terms. So overall, it's a very attractive financial picture for the city, county, and school district relative to that. And I just wanted to highlight that because a number of the other pilots have a beginning pilot of much lower percentage than 60%.
I think you covered a lot of it. So generate new taxes for the Covington project will generate new tangible taxes for the residents. From the residents, and the project will help transform. We think this is a key project, in all honesty, for success of the CCR. Will cause other projects to happen and move forward. Like I said, we're excited to kind of lead the way on this. Just ask for your support.
We know there's no action tonight, but with the next meeting, if you would, I did give a draft agreement to move taxes to your attorney, and Mary Ann has actually edited it. We actually added a provision in that would, because right now, the way the pilot agreement normally says that the pilot payment is due the first year after the bonds are issued. But I never thought of the fact that, you never get official notice when the bonds are actually issued. So we added a provision at Mary Ann's request that once the bonds are issued, you will be getting notice of that, so we can start collating that. Quite frankly, when I'm bond counsel on these, I always compute the pilots annually anyway, so you never had an issue getting the pilot payments on those transactions. I think there's been a few that's been some confusion. We'd be glad to take questions from the board, but we do think this is a really exciting project and could be a benefit to the entire community, the school district, and all the
Questions, Mr. Castro?
I don't really have any questions. I would point out that my firm is involved in the design of the project, so I will be recusing myself from the vote next time. But if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to help get them answered.
Ms. Williams?
Just a few here. Are you going to put the name One Deerfield on the building somewhere?
It's not a name.
Yeah.
That's what you
This
had, I
project
don't know.
right now is unnamed. One Deerfield is the project in Deerfield Township,
Okay,
and it's across the street from the district. It was just an example of a similar type of building, a 4-story elevator building. But we're working through some names. We haven't officially.
oh, okay, all right, I got you. Okay, at 245 units, starting with the studio apartment to the 2-bedroom, do you have price ranges? Because we do know, and this is an issue now, that the prices are going sky high. So what do you got?
Well, I can give you some range of prices. We're looking for the studios will run from 1,600 to 1,670 a month.
Oh,
The 1-bedrooms will run from 1,750 to about 1,975.
oh,
The 1-bedroom with den will run about $2,175. And the 2-bedroom, 2-bath will run from 2,500 to about 2,975. So about $400.
can we negotiate that? Okay.
To be honest, we talked with the city up front about this, and, you know, at the time, Mayor Meyer said, look, if you look at Covington, and you look at the percentage of workforce housing that we have, the city of Covington has done its share of providing workforce housing. It has a higher percentage than almost any other community in the world. They said one of the things we need is some more upscale housing. And I will say this, and we do a lot of studies and look at national studies and things. There is a thing called the circulation of housing. So there are people who are living, most of the people moving out of buildings, this isn't their first apartment. They're moving up from something else. And if these apartments aren't available, there's no place for them to move up. So as they become available, they move up, which opens up a less expensive apartment to someone else who moves maybe to even a less expensive. It's called the circulation of housing. And it's been moving through studies across the country that even if you're building higher price housing, people are relocating into it, and you are making available additional housing across the board. So, you know, number one is when you consider this is something we need to move forward, and that we have done a lot, and that people moving into this. There is a shortage of housing. We are creating housing, and the circulation of housing. We think it actually helps at all levels as people move up in more expensive housing.
Okay,
One of the issues that you run into, quite frankly, if you reduce the rents, you're going to have less income, and then that would probably even necessitate a bigger gap, and they need for bigger incentives to even make it up. It's just the numbers here, especially when you have structured parking, and that's on top podium deal. It's kind of hard to make those numbers work without with more reduced rents, because the numbers don't work.
Okay.
I didn't mean to be rude, and I wanted to be.
hey, I can be rude too. You don't have to apologize to me. Okay, so this is all new, have you factored in any tariff costs that will be for construction work or anything that will impact it, maybe slow it down?
We don't, it's impossible to do because we don't know, and it's all kind of new, and it may be temporary, so those are bridges we'll need to cross when we get to them, if we get to them. It could affect some steel prices. We always put contingencies in our deals for things, so it's not so. But it's one of those things, it's a bridge we'll cross when we get there. And if it requires some additional equity at that time, we'll look at it or whatever, go back to the bank. But it's, when you look at the total cost of the project, I mean, it might affect some steel prices or things like that. So this is mostly a wood frame construction building and concrete. So it'll have some steel in it, but we don't, so it's not gonna change the course of the building.
Okay. I got one more about the payments that are due November after the first year. Is this only gonna be a once a year payment? Because I saw in there something about monthly payments due on them.
No, it would be the way the pilot payments work is that whatever the PVA value is for this particular project as it's billed out until it's the full value, it would be based upon the PVA value, just like a regular tax bill, times whatever your actual rate is for that year, except you'll get a reduction of 40%. But it will be based upon your actual tax rate each year times with whatever the PPA value is. So, and I usually compute those directly and send them to the developer and who then indicate who to make the payments and checks out to.
Okay.
But it'll be paid just like regular real estate taxes, except it won't be a regular real estate tax bill.
Okay.
Great. I did just one quick thing I wanted to add. I know Adams Law had sent us a memo on Senate Bill 25. And so with that law in effect now, as I would understand it, technically, a project like this would not have to come to the school board for an approval of for a pilot agreement. And so I'm grateful to the mayor and Mr. West at the city for making sure that they're always looking out for the schools. And if they're going to do a deal, they're going to make sure that the school district is part of it. So just wanted to add that bit of context. Mr. Simpson?
The project looks great, and I'm glad that you're investing in Covington. I'm curious to know, just to get a little bit more specific, how does this residential development correlate with the housing study that was released 2 years ago?
Well, we didn't, I've seen the housing study. We didn't do the housing study, so you got me a little bit on the spot exactly how it coordinates. But I mean, when we met with the city very early on, this was part of what they wanted in the CCR. And I know that it coordinates with what they had studied and what they had done. And so we are in alignment with what they were looking for. I can tell you that. Like I said, I didn't do the study and I can't quote figures from it.
This particular project, I mean, as you look at the type, all the different housing mix that are in the CCR program that the city has, this is one of the, that fits right within their plan for what that block would be. There's also some smaller scale housing. There's some, a lot more townhomes, things like that are part of other developments going on. But this does match pretty exactly what the city wanted. Now, whether that meets the housing study that was done, I can't tell you that, but it does meet that.
Let me say this, we always start out, any development doing, we go meet with the community to make sure that we're not trying to fit a round peg in a square hole, that we're bringing to the community something they need and something they want, something that's alignment. And they've been on board with our vision since day one. So we met with Mayor Meyer the first thing, and even before the request for proposals came out, and kind of talk with him about things. So, like I said, we didn't do the study, but I know they did it, and I know they did it as part of how they wanted the CCR to develop. And from day one, we've been in alignment with their thinking, or they seemed in alignment with what we wanted to do, and they seemed to fit in with their plans.
But you are a residential development company, right?
We do,
In northern Kentucky.
We do, we're located in Blue Ash, Ohio. We presently own 2 office buildings in Florence, Kentucky. We have done single-family condos, landos, and apartments in Cincinnati. And right now we're working on a few more projects in northern. So we work on both sides of the river, but we do more than residential. We're also commercial development.
Kind of concerns me that the housing study for a residential unit that you are, or for residential development, that wasn't, doesn't seem like it was consulted when doing residential development. You don't have to, I mean, you've given your answer, so that's good, and that's fine. And actually, I feel, I'm with you, I feel you don't need to really look at that because you're a company, you can build whatever you'd like. But I feel that when an entity comes to a municipality or a school board for incentives, then they should at least, or excuse me, we should as a school board facilitate what's needed, looking at what's needed in our region. And that's kind of where I sit. I feel that you guys, this is a great development. I feel it could go anywhere. I'm not knocking that you can't build it. But as a school board, I kind of feel that we need to facilitate as our community grows, we need to be, it's essential that we build cities where everyone, regardless of their income, is able to participate. And it doesn't feel like this development is going to facilitate all of our residents here in Covington to be able to do that. I'm just, it's just a concern of mine, and I feel that there is, and it also concerns me that there isn't any room for negotiation upon the prices, because I feel that that's where the conversation needs to start when you come to the school board for an incentive.
Let me point one thing out to you, and I understand what your issue is. In this particular situation, the owner of the property is the city of Covington. They basically submitted the RFP and indicated what they really wanted, and they received proposals back for this development. So the negotiations the developers had has been with the city on how this project and this particular block should develop. Other sites within that CCR was done on more low scale, smaller scale residential development. But this was always envisioned by the city when they put together that plan, that this was going to be the major upscale multi-family rental project. So the city was the driver on how a lot of this was done.
I'll say one other thing. I understand what you're saying. Workforce housing that everybody thinks of, it's a national problem. It's not a Covington problem or Livingston thing. I've sat on roundtables and discussions about how do we solve this problem nationally. And the hardest way to solve this problem is to build it. Because when you go to build something, about 80% of the costs are fixed. And it becomes more and more difficult to figure out. The only ways to do it is substantial subsidies. And everybody's scratching their head around the country. We understand the issue. But one of the things I said to her, it turns out in studies across the country that when you build a more expensive house, the person buying that house is moving out of a less expensive house, which opens up that house. We have a national shortage of housing right now. And anytime we add housing, at any level, we're opening up housing and freeing up housing. And a shortage of housing is one of the things that causes inflation and causes all the price of all housing to go up. So if you don't build housing at all because you can't figure out how to build workforce housing, you end up with less housing and you end up with more expensive housing. So I completely agree with what you're saying. It's a very complicated problem, and I understand your concern.
My major concern is that you haven't looked at the housing setting. I really feel that once you look at that, if there are some negotiating points that we could come to. Until that's done, and again, I'm one person on the board, but I really feel that housing, you're a residential developer, a company, and you're building residential homes in Northern Kentucky. It's probably would be huge to look at that study and just start from there, and then that's what I would suggest.
Ms. Edelin?
I'll just say that I think this is an exciting project. I'll be supporting it at the next meeting. I think that there are opportunities to collaborate with the school district, like hosting a wonderful celebration for our teachers during National Teacher Month, as well as maybe a fun pool party one day on top of the roof. So I think there are some ways that we can get integrated within this project, and maybe even find ways to celebrate some of our students with your mixed use space.
One other thing, I appreciate that. Thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say, I'll yield my time and defer to the chair.
Thank you.
I guess the other thing I would like to point out, I kind of emphasized it before, this site is generating zero taxes right now in the city of Covington. It's generated zero taxes for the last 65, 70 years, ever since IRS. How long has it been? The pilot request we're asking for the school district here is 60%. If you factor in the SEEK funding aspect, you're getting almost 100% of your net, which that you would get anyway. So it's not like we're making a significant request here at the board. And I understand the housing issue. I deal with it all the time myself. But this particular project, the incentive we're asking for, the city, county, and school district, is probably the minimum that's needed to make this project work.
Mr. Castro, did you have another?
I did. Mr. Parsons, I was wondering if you could comment on the timing. I know sometimes when these are presented to us, we have a lot of time to consider. Sometimes there's a deadline coming up where we have to make an action at the next meeting. I'm just wondering if you know what that timeline is.
The timing isn't as critical. I mean, I don't want to speak for the developer here.
Yeah.
This is the first presentation we've made. We would like the board to move forward as soon as it can. The city is at some point going to be scheduling their approvals and stuff. There is no state hearing on this one, as the chair had indicated, because of this change in state law. There's no state hearing required here, but I think it's important for the developer to get these incentive agreements in place so they can then finalize their plans for the project and move forward with their financing. So as soon as possible would be helpful. We hope you can do it at your next meeting. If that's
Okay.
not possible, we understand.
Yeah, and I know that the city usually has an analysis they do of the pilot, I don't know, submissions, where they do their own independent analysis, where they have a third party do an analysis. Do you know if that's been done?
They did their own underwriting. So they basically looked at all the numbers that the Silverman company had provided. And then then they came back and said, based upon your numbers and your gap, this was the incentive that's needed. So that was all done internally by the economic development staff.
Okay,
We can request that.
we can get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it'd be helpful for the board to review that document. Because I do think, we've talked a lot about housing and, we certainly have a role in approving the incentives. I think we rely in many ways on the city to kind of develop the plan and how to address the housing need. And I think it's helpful to get the city's input on what were the things that went into that decision when they awarded the RFQ to the Silverman Group and then did their analysis and came up. And I presume whenever you go to the city, the presumption is that you have the support of the city in this particular
Yes.
pilot arrangement. Okay.
They basically have indicated back to the developer that this is the pilot they can recommend, and based upon their underwriting numbers and things like that. And the other side is that this is a 20-year pilot, so it's, so they even reduced the recommended terms back. Normally a developer would be asking for 30 or maybe 40-year term of the pilot. This is a shorter pilot than you probably approve for any major project.
Okay. Yeah, no further questions.
Great. We will place this on the June 26th meeting for individual approval. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Can I get
Oh,
on the
please.
record
Yeah,
here
please.
that I live in a single family home with a backyard and we pay $1,200 and you want to charge $16 for a studio? Just keep that in mind.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, next, a very, very exciting presentation, a long time in the making. We have our friends and our team from SHP with us virtually. They are going to give us the master facilities plan is here. Document is here. So I will hand it over to Jeff and the team.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Haggard. I appreciate it. It's good to see all of you tonight. I'm here with Frank Forstothel, representing SHP. We've been walking with the district through this process. We appreciate the opportunity to kind of lock arms with you as we work through this. Our goal tonight is to really just kind of present where we've landed. Like any master plan, it's not a final answer. It's just kind of a direction, if you will. And we offer this for your consideration. Is it best for me to share my screen at this point, to share the slides?
Yes, that'd be great.
I will do that. All right, so as I mentioned, the goal of tonight is to essentially provide a Cliff Notes version of the master planning process, if you will. Hopefully you all have received our more lengthy, in-depth written report that looks like this. I don't need to go through all of that page by page, but I'm happy to address questions that might come, that you might have in regard to that. A little bit about the timeline. We started this process back in February of 2024. So we've been at it for about 16 months now. And we've learned a lot about Covington. That process featured several groups, a steering team, which was composed of district and board leadership, a community advisory team, which was composed of roughly 35 of Covington's neighbors. We had 2 educational visiting teams. One was composed of faculty and staff, and another composed of students, 6th through 12th grade students. We had a blast working with your kids and hearing from them. They offer tremendous insight and wisdom into what we're talking about. So we really enjoyed that time. We also hosted one community forum, and we had 4 focus groups. We met with City of Covington leadership. We met with members of the NAACP, the local Esperanza group, as well as a neighborhood community group. So that was kind of the overall process of where we've been. We also met with the board in February to kind of present the options that we had developed to date and solicit some feedback. And of course, we're here again tonight to hopefully put a bow on things for you. One of the challenges that we asked the community advisory team to assist with was identifying what we call community values. You know, what's important to the members of the Covington community when they think about their schools. And this is the list that group developed. Outstanding academics. They wanted the schools to be the center of the community. The idea of accountability and trust. They really valued a strong collaborative dialogue between the city and the school district. Inclusivity, interdependence, and that's kind of the idea that, you know, the health of the school district is largely impacted by the health of the broader city and vice versa. So, you know, the two don't stand alone, but they stand together. Fostering community pride, a sustainable investment, and finally, safety of our students and our staff. So those were some of the top community values that we heard of. When we listened to the focus groups, we asked them, you know, what are your aspirations for Covington schools? And this was the list they came up with. You'll see a lot of overlap here. So student and staff safety was top on the list, excellent academics, high quality programs, adequate funding, and an continued emphasis on diversity. So those were some of the aspirations that we heard from those 4 groups. I wanted to give you just a brief district snapshot. This is the map of the district, arranged kind of in a long north to south geometry. Unfortunately, it's not arranged in a nice circular or square, which makes it easier to serve. So there's a lot of land, a lot of real estate here. We did facility assessments of your buildings. A few things to point out. One is the assessment score. That score is how well do the buildings perform at being school buildings, right? How well do they support teaching and learning? And you can see that many of the buildings are pretty good. Carlisle and Glen Oswake, pardon me, in the 80%. Latonia, though, because of its lack of daylighting and its kind of open classroom construction, that was at the bottom of the scale at 68%. The other thing that we wanted to mention is the planned maintenance cost and the maintenance dollars per square foot. So those all should also kind of begin to inform the discussion as we make some decisions here. We also did an enrollment projection, and that projection looked out 10 years into the future. It projected a 5% decrease in the next 5 years, and that's K to 12. and an additional 3% for a total of an 8% decrease in that 33-34 school year. I will point out that the decreases in the kindergarten through 8th grade are pretty minimal, 3 to 5%. But when we get into the high school, we see higher decreases impacting that in long-term enrollment. This is how the district's organized today. You all are more than familiar with this. You have one preschool building, 5 elementary schools, a middle school at the Holmes campus, and a high school at the Holmes campus. Overall, you have a capacity of 4,522 students versus a projected enrollment of 3,090. That translates to through the 33-34 school year, you'll be operating at 68% of your total capacity. So when we met with the board back in February and kind of reviewed the 4 options that were rising to the top, we met with you and asked you to identify kind of pros and cons of the various options. There were kind of 2 buckets of options, if you will. 3 of them featured reducing to 4 elementary schools from 5, and 1 of them featured maintaining the 5 elementary schools. So we had a lot of really good and I think constructive conversation around what are the good things and the bad things about each of these solutions. So from that, the steering team kind of took these results and continued to roll up our sleeves and figure out where we try to put some more options on the table, if you will. So after that board work session in February, we developed 3 additional options for consideration. 2 of them are built on a 4 elementary school model. This first option, option 1D, takes 9th district and converts 9th district into a preschool center. So it takes all of your preschool students and locates them here at 9th district. After that occurs, we would rebalance and redistrict the remaining 4 elementary schools. James E. Biggs would become the home of central office and the community and family engagement services. That also allows some property to come available for sale, namely the current central office building and the Covington Partners building. Also part of this plan is targeted improvement at the Holmes High School and the middle school regarding future learning environments, as well as a district innovation hub. So that's option 1D. Option 1E is similar, but a little bit different. So again, 9th district becomes a preschool. The remaining 4 elementaries would be redistricted and balanced so that they serve similar numbers of students. We are also taking advantage of surplus space at the Holmes campus to locate central office at the campus, as well as community and family engagement. This allows several parcels to be vacated. The Caroline Building, James E. Biggs, the central office, and the former community family engagement at West Pike Street. So that's option 1E. And the last option is kind of a doubling down on preschool. It maintains Biggs where it is, and it keeps all 5 of our current elementary schools. And those, with that surplus square footage that we have at those elementaries, we would insert preschool at each of those 5 elementary schools. So essentially doubling your preschool capacity. So all of your IEP students would stay at the Biggs campus. Again, doubling preschool capacity. The elementaries, we would again do our best to balance those. We would also be able to provide 3 specials at each music, art, and STEM classrooms. At the Holmes campus, similar to the others, targeted future learning improvements, as well as an addition of the district of a district innovation hub. This makes available the Covington Partners parcel and the Caroline storage. So that's really kind of where we've landed. I don't know that there's, I'd like to open it for questions. There are some maybe initial things for consideration that we might need to dig into a little bit further. Those are, you know, what spaces are available at homes for improved learning environments. You know, I talked about the surplus of space, maybe digging into what spaces specifically are appropriate and where might we integrate district services. We've had some preliminary studies, walkthroughs of 9th District in regard to preschool, and it is a good candidate for preschool, but likely a little more study on that is necessary as well. Not to mention Latonia and creating community learning centers at the remaining elementary schools. So that's kind of a Cliff Notes version, if you will, of where we've landed. I'm happy to answer any questions at this point or build any comments.
Great. Well, thank you, Jeff, and thanks, Frank. Thanks to the whole team at SHP. I feel like we've been in the trenches on this for quite a while, and just grateful for your thought partnership and your expertise, always being open to new ideas and, you know, being able to pivot when we needed to pivot many times throughout the process. So I'm grateful for that. I would echo though what Jeff said before I open it up for questions to my colleagues that you know, this is really it's not the end of this. It's really you know, SHP kind of passing on the baton to us now so that we can really kind of figure out what it is that we want to do. They've walked alongside us every step of the way to help us get to this point and have some great information that we are armed with. But you know, the next step would be to take this and since, you know, we've been on a waiver, we haven't done a traditional district facilities plan in quite a while because we've been doing this aspirational visionary work. So it would fall to that planning committee to really start taking a lot of this and figuring out what does it really mean and how we're going to, what's the timing of this going to be? How do we do some of those logistical things? So just to, you know, stay tuned. This is not the end of this conversation for sure, but I did want to give some real credit to Mr. Gastrite. Obviously, we all know that he is an architect by training, but he really has been the driving force behind a lot of this work. So just grateful for his leadership on this, and I'll defer to him first for comments and questions.
Thank you, Mr. Haggard. I did just want to give some of my personal comments on this process. And I want to start out just by thanking Mr. Garrison and his staff. We have a very busy district staff, and this was piled on top of everything else they did. We had lots of data requests and working with the great team at SHP to just try to get a good understanding of how our district operates now and what our vision is for it in the future, and how we really, what are the things we have to do to travel between those 2 points, right? Where we are now or where we want to be. And I think when we all understood the reason behind the proposal to close 9th District a few years ago, and you know, operationally and cost, it made a ton of sense to look at consolidating our elementaries. But I think when it came to us and we started to talk to the community, there were questions that we had, and we didn't have the answers for those questions. So this master planning process was really an attempt for us to get answers to those questions, even though we certainly understood the experience at the district that was bringing that proposal to us. And reflecting on it, there were really three questions I think we were trying to answer. The first question was really, how large does our district want to be into the future, right? The second question we had to answer was really, what type of district do we want to design? One, right now we have neighborhood schools, but is there another model that we should consider? How does our community feel about the way that we are envisioning education for our kids? And then the last question we wanted to answer was really, what role does our facilities play in our appeal to our community? And are there things we can improve to basically re-engage our community more fully and get more enrollment? So on the first question about how big do we want to be, that's where the demographic study came into play, understanding how many school-age kids we have. And, I would say that our aspirational, I won't say arbitrarily, but the aspirational capture rate, so the capture rate is the number of kids who can choose our schools compared to the number that do. When we think aspirationally about that rate, we want to at least be as competitive as the county we're in, right? So Kenton County has about 82% of their kids, their families choosing their schools who have the option. Right now, our elementaries were at 75 and our high school campus is 60. So we knew we could, our goal is to raise that up to be competitive with them. But I think when we were looking at our elementary population, if we got to that 82%, could we still fit all those kids in 4 elementaries versus the 5? I think this study allowed us to say yes. If we consolidate an elementary and achieve a capture rate comparable to our county, we would still be able to have all of our kids in schools. We know there's some new lines that might have to be drawn to get the balance of the kids in the right elementaries, but it's possible. The second question we had about the neighborhood schooling versus interest, interest academies, so having STEM schools or fine arts schools versus having our neighborhood schooling we have now, we posed that to our neighborhood, our community advisory team. And the feedback we got is that our community really appreciates our neighborhood schools. And in fact, our neighborhood schools have an opportunity to be even more neighborhood focused and be a way of engaging all of our neighbors and citizens with our facilities after our kids leave. So there's a great opportunity there. Additionally, the idea of going away from neighborhood schools has huge logistical challenges. So the amount of busing required to move kids around, plus we may have an imbalance in the desirability of the interest academies. So all those played into that decision that we want to really, re-engage the idea of neighborhood schooling and what it could mean for our city and our kids. And the third question about our facilities, what role do they play in the desirability of our district and how can we improve that? One thing we saw is that there is a huge need for preschool in our community. And even though we have a fantastic preschool program at Biggs, it is limited to kids who are either income qualifying or have IEPs. And we do not have a tuition model for it. So it is not open to all of our community. Part of that is, again, logistics, but the other part is just space. Like, we don't really have the space at that facility. So the idea that came out of reusing the closed elementary school as an expanded pre-K, I think really sets us up to both consider tuition models and eventually a full day program when that becomes financially viable. I think we would all agree that a full day preschool program would help prepare our kids. We know our kindergarten readiness it's not, we're not an outlier. It's just everybody has a challenge with kindergarten readiness. We believe one of the solutions there would be having full day pre-K prior to kindergarten. The other thing we heard is that when we talk about the socioeconomic and class diversity in our district, one thing that's a challenge is when we lose the tuition kids at the preschool, they find other options, and then they stay. Each educational option is kind of it's a pathway, and it leads naturally to another option. And so when we lose the kids at the very earliest point of entry into our district, it creates challenges to re-engage them later. So I think there are some logistical models open to us to explore. And the last thing I'd say is that, you know, we don't want to leave the Holmes campus out of this discussion, because I think when we started, a lot of us thought the Holmes campus is where the most, the low-hanging fruit was. But really, I think the visioning sessions that SHP led helped us understand the gap we have between our facilities and the facilities our students and faculty really crave. And so there is a huge opportunity in the option 1E that looked at consolidating our district footprint into our high school campus or Holmes campus. What that does by densifying that campus, that actually provides an opportunity to create some new spaces. And I think that those spaces, the goal of those spaces would be to fill that gap between the vision, you know, our own school community has for itself and the reality. So that summarizes my thoughts, and I would just say those studies that Jeff put up, I think, are the natural kind of next steps we would have, is to study how each of these ideas fits into the facilities we have, just so that, and the good nice thing is if we can study it briefly but comprehensively ahead of turning it into a project, which we've come to know as the BGs, then it allows us to have some expectations about cost and scope of those projects. So, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about my comments at another time. Thanks.
I think that was an excellent summary, Mr. Gastard. I appreciate that. And so I do want to have some, I want to set some expectations for my colleagues. Obviously, you know, we're not asking to approve anything. Like I said, this is just another step in this journey that we're moving on. But certainly, while we have the team from SHP here, and also Mr. Gastard, if there are any clarifying questions that you have, or as you're looking forward to kind of what this process look like, we'll certainly entertain those. So I'll start with Ms. Williams.
Okay, I really just have one question, because I'm kind of here to get the community involved in all the decisions that we make. And we do have, you have this community advisory team, and I pretty much know, you know, more than half the people on this list do not have children in the Covington School District. So did you, by any chance, you know, get any parents involved so that we can, you know, make sure that everyone knows that we're planning on closing schools?
Yes, absolutely. So how we engage parents, each principal and family resource coordinator was responsible for recruiting parents at each school and nominating them to be part of the community advisory team, and all schools accomplished that. So all schools, their level of engagement, that was up to them, but parents from all schools were invited to be part of the community advisory team. Mr. Simpson?
I love the additional options, and I just want a little bit of clarification. Options 1D and 1E, we have seen that was presented at our meeting in February, 1E and 1D. So we've seen those options, and we were able to comment. Option 3, this is new, if I'm correct. This is, it seems like this has come out of the discussion from our February meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, sir, all three of these options, 1D, 1E, and option 3 were developed after that February meeting.
Perfect. But option 3 is one that it seems like to be the most different
Correct.
than other options, which I love this. I love seeing the evolution and taking into consideration a lot of the comments that were made from our meeting on February. I would be interested to see now what's the economic impact on us on each one of these options, a high level, because I do see that our comments were taken into consideration in coming up with this.
And I do believe, Jeff, you have included kind of some high level cost estimates for each option as well. So they are.
So they're up here in the upper right.
Well, I get that, but now, I mean, as Steve was saying, the next step in each one.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
gotcha,
Yeah, so
gotcha.
I understand the high level, but the next step in actually implementing and looking at high level traffic patterns, like what's that going to look like? We don't have to go all the way down the weeds, but just good job all around. So thank you.
Great. Ms. Edlin.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate how accessible you all made this process as someone who does not have expertise in facilities or master planning and designing. You all made it very easy to engage in this process. And I especially appreciate my board colleague, Mr. Gastrike, for shepherding us and being so patient with the many phone calls and digging into the details. So thank you all, and I look forward to talking through next steps.
Any final thoughts, Mr. Gastrite?
Nothing substantial to add. I just want to say that, those of us who are in the design and facility professions probably take it for granted, a baseline understanding of how these processes work. I just want to commend everybody from the district who was involved on really digging in, having great feedback. You don't always get that in these processes. I know SHP can probably attest to that as well. There's varying levels of engagement by, I would say, us as clients of theirs, but I felt like everybody really spent the time to understand what the issues were and give the feedback in the sessions we have. So thank you for that.
Great. Well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Frank. Thank you. Send our thanks to Brandy as well. I'm sure this is just another beginning of another road that we're going to travel down. But thank you so much for giving us this update.
Thank you all for the opportunity. It's good to see you.
Thank you all.
Awesome. All right. Next, we're going to move on to the Latonia Elementary School Community Garden MOU and garden rules. Ms. McClure is here, and I am allowed to say welcome to newly minted Director of Community and Family Engagement, Ms. McClure. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I believe in your packet you have a proposed MOU and garden rules for between Covington Schools and Latonia Uptown. This is a revised MOU garden rules from the MOU that was presented in June of 2023. This outlines a different partnership between the parties and also removes any of the plot fees to make it a true community garden with our volunteers.
Great. Any questions for Ms. McClure? If there are no objections, we'll place this on the consent agenda, and that's where it'll be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Pastor Richards is here to give us an update on access test scores. Welcome.
Thank you.
Becky, it's not going. There we go. Okay, so a little background. Access testing tests the English language proficiency of our EL English language learner students. The 4 domains that are tested are reading, listening, speaking, and writing. And when we look at the overall, the Kentucky School Report Card, it counts for 5%. And I have that data. If you want it, you just let me know and I'll send it. I'm going to focus on access testing and those scores only. So a little bit of background before we delve into the test. Our population from 2007 to now has grown significantly. We grew from last year about 29 students, so we are, as of May 28th, we had 773 English language learner students district-wide. Out of those, the countries represented are Afghanistan, Pakistan, Indonesia, Thailand, Guatemala, Mexico, Chile, Uganda, Congo, Syria, Haiti, Burundi, Cuba, Venezuela, Peru, Tanzania, and Zimbabwe. Out of those, the languages spoken are Spanish, Kikliche, Hmong, Creole, Swahili, Arabic, Kinyarwanda, Russian, Central Khmer, Farsi, and Urdu. We have 6 on-site Spanish-speaking interpreters, but we do have devices that translate in all languages. Instruction is delivered by ELL teachers and gen ed teachers, but specific ELL strategies incorporate SIOP, which is the Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol, which are strategies used specifically for EL students. It includes real-world visuals and academic language in all subjects. Our general education teachers, actually, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. SIOP strategies can be used for all students. It helps all students. Our general education teachers, a lot of them are trained in SIOP as well. We do it every year. There are 235 newcomers. Those are students that have been in a United States schools 3 years and under. So before that, they may have been in school in their country and they may have not. So from 2021, we had 208, kind of dropped down, grew a little bit, and now we're at 235. Okay. When we look at access tests, which we're going to look at in a minute, the growth just on access tests is measured in different ways. It could be measured in students exiting the program. They had a certain score that they are no longer in the program anymore. They have English language proficiency. It could be an increase in scores in the individual domains as in reading, writing, speaking, and listening, or an overall composite score that they have increased. So when we see our schools, some will look like they had a decrease, but they increased in other ways. And I will. So from last year, our biggest growth was in 6th District, Holmes Middle School, and Holmes High School. The number on the top is the students that it had increases. So the year before, from the prior year, they had 83 students. It increased this year, if I'm looking at Holmes High School, is 107. John G. Carlisle, there's 3 types. There's the decrease, which means they went back. So they were going to score a 3, they scored a 2. There is middle increase, which means that it's a 4.0, it's 0 to 4 points, or 0.4, excuse me, but it doesn't give you points in the report card. And then there's the big increase, which is 0.5, that gives you points and above. So if you look at John G, they did have a decrease in the middle, but they increased, so they had a decrease in the highest, but they increased the middle. So they went from less students dropping points to more students getting within that range. So that is growth. Same happened for 9th District. 9th District is going to show a little different because theirs was in exited students. So we're looking at exited students. So if we look at that district, overall district, we had an increase in students that were exited from the prior year. We had 38 last year, we have 42. And under the extenuating circumstances that our students had and our teachers, that is impressive. And there's an EL teacher here because it's all about, I owe it all to the students' hard work and dedication and the teachers' hard work and dedication. So John G did have a decrease of 5 students. They also had 1 teacher for most of the year, and they had several newcomers, which are students that entered our country with either little or no education, formal education, or in no English. Glen Swing stayed the same. 6th district grew. 9th district had 2 exits. Latonia had 2, and Latonia's population grew, and that's part of that. And again, the 9th district teacher was serving both schools at that time. Holmes High School and Holmes Middle had growth as well. So we had growth districts. The positive attainment rate increased from last year. It was at 5.1, it is 5.5. We do have more growth. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but we are going to get there. District totals show a growth in students exiting the program, overall increase in positive growth and decrease in negative growth. All EL teachers are certified or in the process of certification. That had not happened before. So they either have their TESOL certificate, EL endorsement, or a master's in EL. We also switched to high school where now all the students are immersed with their general education peers. They have pull-out services, but the students are in the pull-out services for one class, and then they go back into the general education with EL support. Prior to that, we had ESL classes where they were in with EL students the whole time. We have focused interventions specific to language acquisition. We have programs that are scripted, and that is what we use for the students, that they have to meet a certain requirement to be pulled out and get one small instruction. And the programs are Team Toolkit and Newcomer Program. Next steps for the EL department is on-site coaching for EL teachers and general education teachers who work with EL students, continuous support for school administrators, the co-teaching model that we're going to begin. We have a collab model. We're going to kind of up the game a little bit to the co-teaching. We're going to have a SIOP classroom, but right now we have our EL classroom. We have one that is SIOP, which means there's certain posters, there's manipulatives, there's visuals. We're going to pilot it in one general education classroom and see how it goes. And then if that takes off, then we'll keep doing it. Continuous training for all EL teachers through WIDA, which is the guiding principles of EL, and other professional development opportunities. And this year we were able to bring back our summer program for newcomers where it targets academics, culture, life in the U.S.
Great.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Well, thank you for the
so much.
update. Just quick before I turn it over for questions, if my math is correct, that is a 168% increase in EL student population over the past 10 years.
Yes.
Like, that's remarkable. And that would roughly be about 23% of our total student population are designated EL.
About 30.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I just like, this is, I know we've talked about this as a board, this isn't just like 2% of our kids that we can, have a little program for. Like these are our kids. And so I'm grateful for your work and everyone in your team's work. So, Mr. Gastrick.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the summer program. Are we doing that at every elementary as well?
And the middle.
And the middle? Yeah.
It's, we used to do it by ourselves, but now it's embedded with.
Yeah.
Yes.
And is that also an immersion model?
What, for the yes and no, they are going to be pulled out and they're going to work on the newcomer program or Team Toolkit, which is more advanced, for one 30-minute period. And then they go into our list with everyone else and get to go activities, field trips.
Great. No, I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams.
I'm good. Great job.
Great.
Thank you.
Mr. Simpson.
I'm ecstatic. Great job.
Thank you.
Ms. Edlin.
I'll just say our ELL students, they are so resilient and they have overcome so much, and they're a really special group, and whatever this board can do to support and elevate the work you're doing, we want to know what you need to keep moving things forward for our kiddos. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Mr. Garrison.
Great.
Dr. Finney and everyone else over here that supports us.
Awesome. Thank you for the update. All right. Next, Mr. Alter is here with a couple of items. We'll start out with the Dibbles reading report for 2025.
It's a big packet. I lost it in my paperwork back there. So you have the Dibbles report. Dibbles is stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Literacy Skills. So that is an assessment that we give our kindergarten through fifth grade students. So I have some results in there for you. And just overall, I was very happy with the results. The first report you had in your packet that looks like this. This is the report that's generated by the assessment system. And that gives you, you have the overall district results for each grade level, and then you were able to see the actual school results, individual school results from each school for the last 2 years. And overall, again, I was very pleased with each of the schools' results. If you look at it closely, you'll see that our schools are making progress over the last couple years of moving students forward. On the second report that you have in your document, I gave you a couple graphs, Graph A and Graph B. The first one is it's a K through 5 DIBELS reading data report, and that's for the last 4 years. So you could see on the first report, it's just kindergarten, first grade through fifth grade, and it lists what percentage of our students were at or above benchmark at that grade level for the past 4 years. So overall, most of our classrooms most of our grade levels have made, I think one stayed at 72% this year, first grade. Other than that, it looks like fifth grade dropped a percentage, 1%, but other than that, we're still over the last 4 years making growth. The next report is a cohort report. So when you look at that, just as an example, the first one underneath the cohort on the left where it says K underneath, that is kindergarten, the dark blue, and then that's kindergarten, and that's those kids in first grade, second grade, and third grade across the board. So, and again, you go to the first grade one, it's first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. And again, we have mostly increases, but there are, for example, in kindergarten, this is why we have this data, is because if you look at that class, they drop from 60% at or above to 59. So we'll keep an eye on those kids. We have them in fourth grade next year. So hopefully by the time they leave fifth grade, they can gain another, our goal is to hit 80% or above. And that's a pretty normal response to intervention pyramid that you have with 80-20 or 80-15 and 8%, something like that. So does anybody have any questions?
Any questions? I'll start this side. Ms. Edlin?
I appreciated just how well organized the section was and the additional context that you added to the pages. I know the board asked for some more of that, and I just appreciate you responding and providing some more of those supplements. My reflections were similar, some more gains than others, and we see that it seems like at some elementary schools, like ninth comparative to Plymouth Swing, for example. So I'm always interested in thinking, like, what are they doing that's different, and how can we share some of those learnings across our elementary schools?
So we do that, like try to replicate programs that are working. The thing, I think after if ninth district keeps on doing what they're doing, they're going to catch up. So that's why I like to go back in the data for 2 or 3 years to look at what areas. And I always tell the principals, you've got certain schools in the district that are at certain levels, Latonia. I tell them, yeah, let's plan on getting to that level, but right now beat you. You know what I mean? Like beat you. Don't, you want your teachers to every year get better, but it's not realistic to make a huge jump when you're trying to improve. So I always try to tell the principals to, make growth. We want to see growth, and if you got growth, celebrate.
And that was exciting to see. You can see growth all over this data. So with that, I just had a question of what did you discern from this data that would be pertinent for the board?
I think overall, reading is one of the most important skills that we have to make sure, and it's elementary schools that need to make sure that we're sending students that are at or above benchmark, just in the basic skills of reading, first of all. And so I feel pretty good that we have some younger cohorts that are coming through. Like, for example, a fourth grade going into fifth grade, I think they're going to do very well next year. They have across the board in different assessments too. So I feel good about the progress. So, especially since it's consistent and it's not, it's, what's the word? But yeah.
No further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Simpson.
I'll echo my colleague's sentiment. It's also really good to see that increase, and then where there are deficits, you see those deficits, and you're making a conscientious effort to address those. So,
yeah, and I also wanted just to add too, these numbers here reflect. They reflect not just our classroom teachers, but think about, like, in the last year, you helped us put 3 more interventionists in the school. So these are that, creating that stronger, especially for our schools that are still lower and making progress. But ultimately, with our interventionists and our teachers, you look at where they start in kindergarten and how they get those kids to those levels is amazing. So I'll give credit to the teachers especially.
Great. Ms. Williams?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Gastreich?
I echo the sentiments to just appreciate the additional information. I do have some questions, but they're probably a little wonky to ask in this, so I'll follow up with you afterward.
Great.
Oh, okay.
Great. Awesome. Mr. Alto is also here for item number 6, the adoption of a continuous assessment program.
So this topic's a little more involved. And I kept on going through my head, how do I present this when I'm not going to be standing up here for an hour? But I guess I wanted to say that this is something that has been put together based on multiple Kentucky administrative regulations, multiple Kentucky Numeracy Act, Read to Succeed Act, and those things. And in each of those things, we, as a district, we have deadlines. And that's why your packet was so big. I'm sorry for all the information, but I wanted you to have everything that I have. So when looking at all of this information, my job is to keep us in compliance with what we're, required to be implementing in our district for the things that our state, that KDE does say. Like our reading programs, and our reading programs need to be evidence-based. Our tier 1 core program has to be evidence-based in reading and math. And we have certain, lists and things that we need to go by to make sure they are evidence-based. Those aren't really on a Kentucky list, but there are other places that list those high-quality instructional programs. And we have to report all of those programs and assessments to the Kentucky Depository, they call it, every single year. And if we don't have what's on their list, we get a call or an email. So, and usually they are very good programs and very good top assessments and things like that. So basically, over the next couple years, I forgot to say that on top of all that, I'm trying to keep an eye on the new assessment accountability system that's coming down the pike. I'm the kind of person that likes to get out ahead of things. Now, we can wait till 26, 27 to choose an assessment. But what my recommendation is that we have a year behind us before 26-27 hits, and we have the new Kentucky Assessment and Accountability System, which I included in your packet so you can see all of that information. With the assessments that I'm recommending, they are, I will say, on the list, in the STAR reading, screening and diagnostic, and the STAR math reading, screening and diagnostic. I didn't look just K through 3. I looked K through 12. Because I don't have this in your packet, but you can check this out. It's 704 KAR, Kentucky Administrative Regulation 3095. Okay? So that's not in the Read to Succeed Act, or it's not in the Numeracy Act, but that regulation states that K through 12, you need to have multi-tiered student supports K through 12. You can't have a multi-tier student support system if you don't have assessments. So in thinking with this assessment system, which in the ACTS, it only goes up to grade 3, to be in compliance, we also need to follow KAR 3095, which puts us in compliance K through 12. Because our high school, which does tier 2 interventions now, and tier 3, and our middle school, which does tier 2 interventions for kids based on the standards, you have to have assessments to say if they make progress. So the best thing we can do is not when hopefully things don't change, but yeah. Anyways, if a kid takes STAR in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, up into the high school, then that's less of a change on those students. I contacted KDE and I said, is STAR going to be an assessment that will be approved for the local accountability system? Because there's local accountability and there's a state accountability. The local accountability systems ask for reading and math local accountability assessment. The state assessment also is going to have, it's a little different. It's a adaptive assessment, which this is an adaptive assessment, meaning it changes according to the student's skills. According to their 4.0, the new state assessment is going to be an adaptive assessment, which is really different than what we're used to. So also with STAR reading and math, it's the only program in both reading and math that, how can I say this? It has both a screening and a diagnostic. Now, MAP already have screenings and diagnostic, and I'm saying the top assessments that you normally hear of. MAP and already, their diagnostics were approved by KDE with hesitation because due to their reliability and validity. I don't know how that got approved, but I don't want to give our kids an assessment that is not reliable or valid. So those are off the plate at that time. And KDE even put it right on the form. They didn't try, they put it right there. It's not, hesitation, we put this on here. So in order to have reliable results, we have to have those for our kids. Plus, what this does is this is one platform that our teachers have to go to. If we, and you may have a question about Pearson. What this does is when you have to have a screening and a diagnostic, you can keep Pearson in place, but it is another assessment students would need to take. We want to get assessments off our kids' plates. So I tried to put in a summary at the beginning. I really tried to look at STAR also has the lowest number of minutes it takes to take the test for the screening and diagnostic. The diagnostic is a minute per test. Some other tests are 15 minutes per test, and those tests are given individually to students. We can't have teachers doing 10 to 15-minute assessments for the diagnostic. The screening assessment, just so you know, the screening assessment is like a KSA test, comprehension, vocab, long reading passages. And the diagnostic, which is also nice about this, because it's STAR reading screening and then diagnostic, because it ties, it's in the same system, STAR can tell a third grade teacher, Tom scored a 1100 scaled score on the test. Tom does not need the diagnostic. If that happens 7 times in a teacher's classroom, that's 7 kids that do not need to take the diagnostic. If you have STAR reading and then, say if you have STAR reading and then it didn't have a diagnostic, then you would need to use another diagnostic from another company, and they don't connect to say whether or not. So that's another way to give instruction back to the teachers in the classroom. We are also with STAR, they have created, this was a big thing that I made them send me multiple copies of this. When we have kids in intervention, you need to have graphs to see the kids' progress, how they're progressing. You can't just look at numbers. You got to look at aim line, trend lines, those kind of things. STAR didn't have that a few years ago, so we went another way. STAR has that now. Right now, our intervention teachers are spending hours developing these graphs and inputting data. STAR develops them automatically now. So that's going to take hours off them of having to develop them this year, which they did. They all did it. They did a great job. So that's kind of a summary of all this. This is, my recommendation. I'll follow. We've talked to all the principals. We've surveyed the teachers. We asked the teachers, about Pearson? We asked them about the time it took them. We asked them about the functionality of the assessment, those kind of things. Would you like an assessment that has less time? And of course they would. So we did make sure. So we did get that input. So other than that, that's kind of a summary.
I think it was a great summary, and we appreciate the email that you sent out ahead of time with all the information. I'm also grateful for you to give up some time just to meet with me to walk me through this a couple of times, so I made sure I understood it. So I'll open it up for questions and comments. I'll start with Ms. Edlin.
I mean, you answered a bulk of my questions. I was familiar with STAR. We did use it in the past in the district, and my understanding is the main complaint was the lack of longitudinal to be able to see those trends over time. So it's good to see that those features have been updated. So if I'm understanding this correctly, STAR would replace Pearson in both math and reading and be accessible K-12.
Yes.
And it would be one platform.
Yes.
And it would include the diagnostic and the screening.
Yep.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm clear. And then I did read that it has great alignment with KSA, more or less with MAP. Are you familiar with which one has more alignment, MAP or STAR with KSA?
I think the screening with KSA with MAP, I think they're all have around 80% or above. So that is STAR also is high. So that was one of the reasons I included that study in your packet. But MAP is, you're asking me about the MAP assessment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it also has high reliability with KSA.
When you were looking through the assessments, and I know you put some of this criteria in here, and I appreciated seeing like some of the differences in time, were there already in MAP, when you were cross comparing the different assessments, did STAR just kind of stand out in terms of the criteria, and then like your criteria that you felt was best for the district? And could you explain some of that criteria?
So when looking at the assessments, first of all, it's not the first thing, but you think budget, right? So, and it's very reasonable for everything. It's very reasonable. So time, it stood out when it came to the time it took. That's one of my first number ones, was the number of minutes it takes for screening and a diagnostic, plus what I said about how it STAR has a screening and a diagnostic, both that will combine, and
Yeah.
you could,
Talk to each other.
yes, talk to each other. That's a good way to say it. So that was huge, especially the fact that diagnostics may or may not even need to be done. So I put that flow chart in there for you. It showed you where if a student does a certain thing or they don't, you go here and do the diagnostic. So time was a big thing. What else did I put in my summary? Time. Now you're making me.
Well, I read through this information. I appreciated how
The
comprehensive
fact that
it was.
it's one platform, the fact that it, yeah, those, I'm sorry, I can't do, it's in my summary.
You got it all in there for
Yeah,
us, Scott.
You've
Yeah.
done a great job, and I just appreciate all your efforts and, yes, your additional narrative that you added. It was helpful to hear your thoughts and your expertise in this. So, thank you.
Mr. Simpson. Great. Ms. Williams. Mr. Gastright.
Just when I tried to avoid wonky conversation, then you had to present this, but I understand it. I appreciate your clarity and walking us through it. This is very helpful, so no further questions.
Great. I think also I've said to Mr. Alter many times, there's probably nobody's professional judgment I trust more than yours, but I have continued to say my hope is that at some point we can align with neighboring districts on our assessment. I think maybe we can lead the way on that and say this is why this is better. This is why everybody else should do it. As we're sharing kids across school district borders, it sure would be nice if we had some alignment on assessment. But if I assume you need an approval to move forward with this, so I'm going to ask if there's any objection, please, it's on the consent agenda. That's where it'll be. Thank you, Mr. Alter.
Thank you.
Next, Ms. Duty is here with a couple of things. Attendance is up first.
I added a couple of extra documents for you all at the previous meeting. There was a request for the chronic absenteeism report. So you have that for the 24-25 school year. It has some really beautiful graphs on it. This is probably one of my favorite reports in Infinite Campus. And then the other additional document I shared with you outside of the packet is a summary of our data from attendance, ADA, and chronic absenteeism. Are there any questions about the attendance?
Any questions from Ms. Duty? All right.
We are above state average for ADA and below for chronic absenteeism, so we'll continue to work on that.
Great. Next, we have the Code of Acceptable Behavior and Discipline changes for next year.
Yes, if you turn to the first page, we like to outline the summary for you so you do not have to go through the entire code. Are there any questions on the suggested changes of the committee?
Any questions from Ms. Duty? Is there any objection to, I'm sorry, Ms. Edlin?
I'm sorry, my only question was related to unexcused absences and the out-of-school suspension counting towards truancy. Do you know if that was KRS? We're on page 1, 2, 3, the top, under unexcused absences, and new criteria looks like was added. So looks like out-of-school suspension will count towards truancy.
Out-of-school suspension has always counted as an unexcused absence, and that is a state regulation. That's for any student in the state of Kentucky in public schools who are suspended. That's an unexcused absence.
That's what I thought. So we're just getting our code up to date with that language.
I think what it is no, yes, I believe that is the case. Okay. And I also believe that we take feedback through the year from parents when I receive those wonderful calls in my office. And I listen to them about the fact that, okay, I know that this is what you're saying, but this isn't what this is saying. And so we try to make sure we make those adjustments to address those concerns.
Any objection to this being on the consent agenda? That's where it'll be.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Ms. Judy. Mr. Grine was here to talk to us about reinstatement of the SBDM councils at Holmes High School in 9th District. I really not sure if we have any questions about that. I think Mr. Garrison can answer them. Mr. Gastright? It is great news. Yeah, it's great news. All right. If there's no objection, we'll place this on the consent agenda as well. All right, next you have your personnel actions and your school meeting minutes. I believe there's some more meeting minutes in your red folder as well. So if you have any questions about either of those now, Ms. Edlin?
My only question is if we could get kind of a midway update. I know one of our goals was focused on teacher retention. And so looking at what does that look like across the district, not just for teachers, but our administrators and our classified staff. So I think it would be helpful to have just some data points on that. And I know I appreciated how this was broken down because it just added some additional context, because like a lot of folks don't realize that if you're on emergency certified certification, you are non-renewed automatically. And that doesn't mean that you won't be able to come back, but it's misleading in the numbers when we think about retention. So I appreciated how this was broken down, but would like an update according to the new beautiful calendar that we're
That's right. That's right.
reviewing tonight.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
whenever that aligns best.
I appreciate you pointing that out. To see that, those non-renewals are not necessarily not supposed to be required to do those by law. So thank you.
But that nuance is what is so helpful. So appreciate it.
Are there any additional questions? Yep, we're good. My only thing I did at the personnel actions, we are showing 18 vacancies at the middle school, 16 vacancies at the high school. Are we concerned?
Let me ask Mr. Grind about that because he's more aware of what's going on in both locations.
Back to her point, there were some emergency certified people at both locations. And I'd say that number is about half of what actually, because you have to non-renew them, and you have to wait the 15 days when you post the application, and then we can bring that person back.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they have the most vacancies. The biggest difference this year, I'll be honest with you, from the last 3 years, is we actually have, when we do have an opening, we actually have applicants.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
we've been very fortunate. I know some of our elementary schools have filled every vacancy they've had. They've got a full staff. So we're in a much better spot right now than we have been the last few years.
Great. Awesome. All right. Next on the agenda is our 25-26 board meeting agenda calendar. And so I had provided that to you all, I think, last month. I know Mr. Gastrite had reached out. We had some great conversation. He had caught some things that we definitely need to include in that. Namely making sure we're capturing in there somewhere actually data from the Department of Community and Family Engagement, making sure that's a report somewhere. Additionally, I had a great conversation with the cabinet a few weeks ago. They've provided some great feedback, and so those changes are not reflected in the current draft you see, but I do have a draft going with some of those changes. One thing that, I'll save mine and see if you have any questions or comments now about the calendar, or if you'd like. Obviously, this is just informational. We still have a couple of weeks, so I'm certainly open to having one-on-ones with you if you have any additional feedback. But I did have one other thing, but I'll wait on that.
I was just going to ask, in the revisions, could you mark line those in red or make
Sure.
them distinct?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
One thing that came up actually in a conversation I was having with Mr. Alter that I think the board would maybe appreciate going in this direction, and I really believe Ms. Edlin would appreciate going in this direction. When it comes to student and staff recognition, as we've done it historically, we're just assigning the school a month, and then they come up with some they do a employee of the month, or a classified employee, certified employee, volunteer of the month, and then whatever student recognition happens to be falling there. Would there be some appetite to perhaps forming some sort of recognition committee? And allowing there to be more organic recognitions at board meetings, so that as things are happening in the district, it's not necessarily bound by whatever school in the month we're meeting, but if we're having teachers who are being recognized for whatever, we can bring them to that meeting. Or if a student has just won a competition at FBLA, we can bring them in that month. It doesn't matter what. So thoughts around, we would have a committee to kind of help us sort and filter what those those recognitions are, and making sure we're not just only recognizing students and staff from one particular school. But so some thoughts.
It sounds like this committee could maybe help support the charge for different celebrations, like teacher celebration. I know we worked with businesses a couple years back, but I think that could be exciting. And I know that some schools, like the middle school, for example, had a group, I think it was called like the Sunshine Club or something, and they did something similar. So would love to see some representatives from the schools on that to help guide the direction of what that would look like.
Thoughts, feedback?
Sounds like a great opportunity to make some more bracelets.
You're gonna be getting busy. That's right, get busy. All right. Well, again, this is for informational. You will have a final version on the 26th that will be redlined per Ms. Edlin's suggestions, and then I'll take this idea of a recognition committee back with the superintendent, and we'll kind of figure out what that could possibly look like moving forward. All right, great. Next, we have the 25-26 Partners for Change MOU. I'll allow our attorney, Ms. Meehan, to present to you what you're looking at.
Thank you. So this MOU is going to be just solidifying the partnership between Change and the funding it provides potentially for programming through Covington Independent School District. This is a modified agreement from what you may have recalled or reviewed from last year. But obviously I vetted it. I think it's appropriate. I think it reduces to writing what an agreement should be, and it's legally sound. So if anyone has specific questions, I am happy to address those.
Any specific questions, Ms. Edlin?
I have more of a comment than
Okay,
a question,
please.
if that's allowed. I think like investing in opportunities like this, we know are so important. So I am totally in support of partnering with Partners for Change and all the great work that we do. We know that these types of experiences and having access to mentors not only buffer childhood adversity, but they boost academic outcomes. So I think this is a great partnership, and I appreciate all the work that they've done over the course of the years.
Great. Mr. Simpson?
I serve on the board on Partners for Change. I'm going to recuse myself from comment and vote.
Great. Ms. Williams?
We talked earlier.
Great. Anything from you?
Yeah, I just echo Ms. Edlin's comments, totally in support. So thank you.
I will, and you know how much I hate doing this, but we are on a bit of a time crunch, so I am going to ask for unanimous consent of this board to move this item from informational to approval.
I'll move to approve this item.
I second.
Before you
Is there
vote, I
any
do have a
discussion?
comment.
Please, Mr. Garrison.
Becky, I want the minutes to reflect that as the advisor to this board, that I want to change in what am I saying? I want to change in the memo that I did not recommend this. It was the will of the board, so I want that reflected. So that's at least what I was telling.
Excuse me, why?
Do you want
I
me
would like-
going to it tonight, or would you prefer me to give you a call?
I mean, just a little, snippet of why would help.
First, I think the first thing that I think that I have trouble with is I feel like this particular MOU is giving the 501c3 some authority, the ability to micromanage certain employees of the district. I also think that we've been negotiating back and forth on what this could look like. The employees that's impacted are district employees, and they don't belong to the 501c3, so I have concerns there. I have some concerns as advisor to the board that the board is skirting on personnel with approving this MOU. I was told that another district had the exact same contract that wasn't accurate. I reached out to that district for their MOU. A lot of differences there that I can send you their MOU. Matter of fact, that district's a little upset with us now because that particular superintendent felt like he was manipulated and sort of used for that would just have to be a conversation between that superintendent. I don't want to speak for him, but I do think it has sort of caused problems between the two district relations. And let me see what else.
Why are you thinking? Is this something that's coming from Covington Partners or Partners for Change? Is it
Partners
something
for
from the?
Change.
Okay, because this is new, right? Is this starting over or are they just name changing?
Well, it's sort of new. Previously, we had an agreement that was 1 page long up until this year. And now we've got an agreement that's about 10 pages long. And so, I understand the need to offer in some governing procedures, but I think we really have to be careful with how much we allow them to govern our employees. Again, I think we can create an agreement that is not requiring employees to do certain things if they're doing something else. Or I just think we have to be careful. It's just my opinion. And I can point out where I think Partners for Change is dipping into personnel issues and micromanaging district employees. I can point that out for you. I don't think any district in the state of Kentucky would approve this as written, or any superintendent would support this as written.
I appreciate you putting that on.
Thank you.
I do want to be clear that this MOU has been being negotiated since, I believe, February. Both parties have had chances to amend it. Both parties have agreed to many changes. We are very grateful to Ms. Meehan for keeping the train on the tracks here. Legally speaking, this is a fantastic MOU. Superintendent can certainly have his opinion. I don't agree with any of them. I think when you have an organization, a very trusted community partner, who is trying to give us $500,000, it is only right that they're asking for some basic accountability. That's what we do with every single grant that we receive. So there has been a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to ask Becky to call the roll.
Ms. Eastland?
Yes.
Mr. Gaskrate?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
And Mr. Haggard?
Yes. I do want to take, if you'll indulge me for just a quick minute, just a moment of personal privilege. I did want to just speak directly to our staff in the Department of Community and Family Engagement, who this really impacts, because I know it's probably been a difficult and unsettling couple of weeks for you as we're trying to get this MOU approved. I just want everyone in that department to know that I see you, I hear you, I am one of you, literally. That is the department that I came from. And I know far too often that your work can be overlooked and excused as fluff and not essential to the core functions of our school district. But I hope you see that this board especially flat out rejects that notion. Some people may think that an after-school program is throwing a basketball out in the gym and some board games out on the cafeteria table, but that's not Covington at all. Our community learning center coordinators are poring over individual student data to ensure that every single day, each unique student is getting exactly what they need to be supported academically. They're also juggling and coordinating multiple community-based partnerships and also thinking creatively with teachers and building staff to develop enrichment opportunities so that students can find their passion while they're at school as well. They're doing all this while communicating with parents, attending teacher PLC meetings, passing out snacks, getting kids on buses, and putting out multiple and hopefully not literal fires that come up every single day. Our mentoring staff also are absolutely the best in the business. They are truly magical matchmakers, being able to screen and interview potential mentors and connect them with just the right student who needs their guidance right then and there. And they also then they support both student and mentor along their entire journey. When they say mentor one student, change 2 lives, it's absolutely true, but only because of our dedicated mentoring coordinators. We also have staff in the department who are supporting coordinators every single day with data analysis and operational support, and you only find that in high-performing programs. But all of that work, that incredible work, has risen on a foundation built by Covington Partners in Prevention, Covington Partners, and now Partners for Change. Dr. Janice Wilkerson had a radical idea in 1999 to call in a bunch of favors from friends and colleagues and build a cross-sector coalition of advocates dedicated to supporting students that would grow into a nonprofit organization that now has raised tens of millions of dollars to support Covington youth and families. While our work here in Covington is the beacon that lights the way for innovation in after school, summer learning, mentoring, family engagement, and so much more. It is this symbiotic relationship with Partners for Change that fuels those lanterns and is essential if we're going to continue to lead the way forward in student support programs. So all I have to say is I know so many people have worked so hard to get us to this place, and I'm hopeful that we can continue this partnership by putting egos aside, embracing each other with mutual respect, and committing ourselves to what I know is our shared desire to do what we say, to do it well, and to make a difference. And so I'm grateful for my colleagues for indulging me in that. We're going to move on to individual approval items tonight. And we only have one, and that is the 25-26 salary schedule. Mr. Grine is here if you have any questions.
Yeah, in the May budget that Annette had you all approve, it was in there that we would be given an $1,800 raise per employee, and that they'd also get their step raise. And those people that are at the top of the steps, like we've been adding a step to get the 27 steps in all the different areas, and we would add one more step for those people. And so the reason we're asking for approval is changing the stuff in the system that we do payroll out of is a very big job. And we want to try to give our payroll people enough time to get this done so that the payroll, when we do it the first pay of the new year, it's correct. So that's why we're asking for approval.
I'll move to approve.
A second.
There's any discussion? I just had one clarifying question. Where are we with our study of the salary schedule that we approved a couple months ago? Okay. Okay. There's a motion and a second. Ms. Egan, you call the roll, please.
Ms. Edelin?
Yes.
Mr. Gastroy?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Haggard?
Yes. We have no addendum agenda tonight. Do we have a report of the superintendent?
Yes, we do. Have a great end of the year, some end of the year activities. First, of course, we want to celebrate our 157th commencement exercises. I want to congratulate all of those students and their families. It was a great evening. We just beat the rain and the storms, and it just worked out perfectly. To the class of 25, whatever your path leads, career, college, creative pursuits, go forward with confidence, curiosity, kindness. Wishing you all the success, happiness, and endless opportunities. So remember, your future is yours, students. Retirees, I'd like to take this opportunity to once again give a recognition to our retirees who served this district so loyally over the years, and wishing them well in their next chapter. Thank you for the many years of service to our students and families of Covington Independent. Had a great softball field, weight room, ribbon cutting. I think both situations were a hit. As some of you were able to visit, the weight room had a huge makeover. Thanks to those who attended. Softball, I think you saw the excitement from the girls and the families. So we want to congratulate the softball team with that. I think some of you were able to take a tour of some of the renovations at Holmes High School. I hope you were pleased as you took your tour. And again, we apologize about the construction disruptions, but I think it's going to be worth it in the end. And I think next, Camp Covington started up this week, isn't it? Next week. Thank you for that clarification there, Ms. McClure. And I think we're getting excited for that. I do think the high school's already started summer school, and I think some activities in the middle school as well. And they're dealing with electricity being off in some places on the campus, so they're being very cooperative in making it work. So it's really been great to see. I think you should have received your KSBA policies. I know that I think we forwarded to the board, and we just forwarded just to the cabinet, right? Cabinet. So we're having the cabinet review it. We will be getting it out to the policy committee, as well as eventually to board members, so y'all can peruse it and decide whether you want to make some changes. There will be on Juneteenth, there will be no summer programs and offices will close, so a great time to celebrate the celebrations of June. And just a reminder, starting July 1, that will be our 200th year celebration for public education in Covington. And so mark your calendars if you can at this point for August 18th. I think that's going to be our opening day to start the celebration, and it's going to be an entire year's worth of celebrating. That's all I have to report, Mr. Chair.
That's a great report. Do we have a report of the attorney?
I have no report, but I will ask to go into executive session when appropriate.
Great. Any board member discussion? I have a couple of things to discuss. So, one, you will have seen, hopefully you have read my email that I believe I sent last week about the exciting opportunity we have in front of us to partner with the City of Covington and the Covington Recreation Committee. I know many of you around this table have been working on this idea for quite a long time, and I'm grateful that we have a bulldog in the mayor's office now, and we're finally getting over the hump to do that. What I did also, what Aaron did on a moment's notice was basically take the mayor brought this to as a walk-on item to the city commission on Tuesday, and it was unanimously approved by the city commission then. What Aaron has done is basically take their order and draft this into a resolution for the school district to consider as well. Everything is the same as I described to you in my email. The charge of this commission is to conduct a comprehensive inventory of recreational opportunities available to Covington's youth, identify opportunities to align programming, share facilities and resources, and expand access to after-school and summer opportunities, identify service gaps and other challenges related to youth recreation, and also engage the city's youth and our community stakeholders to review and incorporate their perspective. It will be a 12-person commission, half of those appointed by the mayor, half of those appointed by myself, both approved by both bodies. We're going to have 3 co-chairs of the commission. That's going to be Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Ackrey, and Mr. Simpson. And additionally, we are asking several key staff members to serve as ex officio members of that committee for their expertise and advice from both the city and the school district. So I would like for you to review this resolution, and I would like for you to consider approving this at our June 26th meeting. Okay?
Can I add something to that?
Please, yes, Ms. Meehan.
And also, if there's any feedback related to what the resolution is capturing in light of the order that was approved by the city, please reach out to me directly. I think that would be helpful.
I have one other item for discussion I want to put on your radar. Speaking of the 200th anniversary of public education in Covington, obviously when those folks came together, we know that they wanted to build a system to make sure every kid in our city has access to a free and world-class public education. And now all that time later, I think we're at another crossroads to figure out what does the next 200 years of education look like in our city. And to that end, as he has notified all of us, our dedicated superintendent of the past 12 years has informed us of his intention to retire at the end of his contract in June of 2026. So we must begin that incredible task of finding the next leader who will lead Covington Schools 2.0. Obviously, we are experiencing some external pressure, as I'm sure you've heard in the news. Newport also has a superintendent opening, and so we certainly don't want to get scooped on all the available talent to lead our district. And so I wanted to lay out some initial thoughts with you tonight around the timeline that I'm proposing. Ms. Meehan has also been working on a draft RFP for someone to come help us with this that we'll bring to you hopefully on the 26th of June. My goal here, I would like to get your approval of that RFP on the 26th. So we'll get it out to you ahead of the meeting, obviously, because we really want to put it out for response at the beginning of July. hopefully have that closed toward the end of July and be able to have our search team or whoever that team's going to be in place by Labor Day. I do think, and you'll see this in the draft RFP, that I do think the search is going to have pretty much 4 distinct categories in which we're going to need support. I know this board is very interested in community engagement up front, really engaging our stakeholders to figure out, what are the characteristics and the qualities of the next leader of our schools. We're going to need some support on communications as well, making sure all that's communicated appropriately with stakeholders. And then obviously we're going to need help with the actual search, a national candidate search, help with screening, help managing the screening committee that's required by KRS. Obviously, we're also going to need legal support, but we're good on that part. We have a great attorney advising us. And so my kind of end goal here, what I would like us to get to a place where we can post this position sometime between Thanksgiving and before we leave for Christmas break, so that we can probably maybe be one of the first districts that's posting for their next superintendent. And then obviously that would all then follow with everything regulated by KRS when the applications come in and the screening committee is convened. And then obviously we would spend the spring doing the work of selecting the next superintendent. So any clarifying questions I can answer at this point? I know I don't have a document to put in front of you, but as I said, I just wanted to get make sure you understood kind of what I'm thinking on a timeline, and then we'll get you an RFP to review.
Mr. Chair, when were you expecting me to get something to you in writing? Because I had not planned to do that anytime soon. So I thought I would wait on the board to decide whether they were going to offer me another contract, or that's what I thought. Now, have I been contemplating? Absolutely, but I don't think you have anything in writing for me designating that I will retire in 2016. So yes, I've said it, but I've also thought about reconsidering. So we'll wait and see what happens.
Well, that's great, Mr. Garrett. I do just take you at your word. So when you informed the board of that, I took you at your word that was what you were intending to do. So I appreciate you bringing up this now. I want everyone to be very clear. I did inform Superintendent last week that I was going to have this conversation. He had no objection to that conversation being had tonight. So the grandstanding that you see here, I'm not sure what that's about. But so we will get something to you for the June 26th meeting. We do have a couple of upcoming events. Obviously, we will reconvene as much has been discussed on June the 26th. As Mr. Garrison stated, we do have staff opening day on August the 18th. I know Becky did send out an email to everyone about the KSBA Summer Leadership Institute. So if that's something that you're interested in attending, please get back with Becky so she can make sure that happens. All right, we're going to ask our attorney to take us into an executive session this evening.
Yes. May I have a motion to move into executive closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810 subsection 1, subsection B, also subsection 1, subsection C. I don't anticipate any action taking place afterwards.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we are in executive session. So as Ms. Meehan stated, we do not anticipate taking action after the executive session. So we'll say goodnight to everyone here and everyone at home.